Testosterone causes heart attack. TRT fuels aggression. The FDA cracks down on testosterone clinics. What if I told you that's mostly BS, and many men are falling into a big pharma trap that keeps them fatigued, fat, weak, and sick? But that begs the question, why has testosterone become so vilified? Welcome back to the JP Reacts channel, my beautiful freedom-loving friend. Here's why I want to cover this topic, because I care. I care about men. We need help. Men are suffering today. Low self-confidence, feeling weak and fatigued in our bodies, no energy, not to mention that men are taking their own lives at escalating rates. And I'm coming from my personal experience being on TRT. I've been optimizing my testosterone levels for the past 6 years under expert medical guidance. It's made a dramatic difference for me in terms of my energy, my self-confidence honestly just noticeably shifted as I optimize my testosterone levels. As I age, I actually feel stronger and feel younger. I kind of think, aging isn't a choice, but how you age is a choice. And my body shape, once I optimize my testosterone levels, I put on 20 pounds of muscle. So across the board, I have had no negatives. I have only had positives. And I want to help men become better men. I think the world needs more better men. But when there's an intentional vilification around something that can easily help not all men, but a lot of men, I will share my opinion. So that's what we're doing here. Let's get into it. The vilification of testosterone. Testosterone optimization, or TRT, it's been unfairly equated to steroid abuse, cheating, toxic masculinity, health risks. Yet many men, even men who are working with the best longevity doctors in the world, use testosterone in order to increase their health and increase their longevity, including myself. And we'll get into the specifics about how and why testosterone is being vilified. Yet while it's being vilified, we are in fact in an epidemic of low testosterone. With men today, testosterone levels are up to 50% less than they were in men 50 years ago. A 22-year-old man today has the same testosterone levels on average that a 67-year-old man did in the year 2000. 1 in 4 men have clinically low testosterone. So it's pretty safe to say it is in fact an epidemic, yet people are greeted with myths about TRT like it'll cause prostate cancer, it'll cause heart attacks and strokes, or it's just for jacked gym bros. And the results of that, millions of men have become afraid of the very thing that they might actually need and be helped by the most. So the question I have is, were these myths actually created to protect men, or were they created to protect and produce profits? Big Pharma's role. As I see it, here's Big Pharma's second biggest problem with testosterone. It's cheap, it's generic, which means it can't be patented, and it's effective. That doesn't fit well with Big Pharma's business model. Unlike another drug that's some weird concoction, it's not a synthetic replication of what our bodies make, and therefore they can patent it, and then they can sell it for astronomically huge margins. That can't be done with testosterone because testosterone is naturally produced by the human body, and therefore they're not allowed to patent it. Therefore, the limits on the profits they can make from it are extremely low. So if it's an effective solution to a lot of men's health issues, that means they'll be making tiny little bits of money instead of large bits of money from these other very profitable drugs that kind of patch the symptoms of those very same health issues. So the pharma lobby did what the pharma lobby does. It led to the DEA classifying testosterone as a Schedule III drug in 1990. Pharma lobby's pressure on the FDA puts pressure on testosterone compounding pharmacies, and it's led to insurance restrictions, making it really hard to access. So it's one thing for Big Pharma to vilify and kind of push testosterone off to the side because it's not very profitable for them unto itself. But what if you found out if testosterone was accessible to men who need it, Big Pharma would not only not be making much profit on that, But even worse, for them, they would lose so much other profit. So we'll debunk the myths about testosterone in a moment, but first I'll share with you, in my opinion and research, the number one reason why Big Pharma has vilified testosterone and created myths around it. Why it's vilified. Optimized testosterone levels in a man leads them to be metabolically and mentally healthy. So when their levels are too low, their metabolic health and mental health can really suffer. So let's take a quick journey and check out how much money Big Pharma makes when those areas of men's health, metabolic and mental, are compromised. So speaking of metabolic health, let's start with body composition and obesity. Every year, $71 billion are spent on GLP-1 drugs alone. And with diabetes, which is a result of very poor metabolic health, $412 billion are spent every year. And with cardiovascular health, $114 billion are spent every year treating these conditions. And what about mental and cognitive health? Well, every year, $225 billion are spent treating mental health conditions. And what about sexual health and erectile function, which try having that work well when you have low testosterone. Well, in the US, every year, over $1 billion are spent on erectile dysfunction drugs alone, like Viagra. Also related is bone health and bone density. What's the cost of that? Every year, $25 billion. And of course, sleep. Hard to have ideal sleep when your hormones are messed up. Yet the cost of that every year in the medical system, $94 billion. Now, what all these health areas have in common is they are all supported when you have optimized testosterone levels. Yet when your testosterone levels are too low, you're going to get compromised. And that leads to a grand total of 942 billion reasons why the medical system, Big Pharma, has motive to create myths about testosterone. So we could safely treat and support men's testosterone health, which would support all these other areas, but it comes at a pretty good cost. That's 942 billion. We don't like testosterone. But here's a fair question to ask. Do I really think Big Pharma would deliberately villainize something that would drastically help many men and improve their health? Let's put it this way. The drug company Pfizer has paid the largest criminal fine in U.S. history, $2.2 billion, for one fine alone. And that technically makes them a criminal organization. In other words, do I think a criminal organization would deliberately lie to men in order to protect their profit? Yes, I do. I mean, call me crazy, but I do. Debunking the myths. One of the myths is TRT causes prostate cancer. Well, it turns out to be false. Modern studies have shown there is no causal link. Or another one, TRT causes heart disease. Well, that appears to be false as well, where optimized levels can actually improve cardiovascular health, yet mismanaged or super high irresponsible bodybuilder doses of testosterone may contribute to heart disease, but that does not reflect responsible TRT use under the supervision of a doctor. Yet it gets unfairly equated to regular TRT use. I don't know. It's maybe just a coincidence. Because check this out. In 2023, there was a landmark study done on testosterone replacement therapy called the TRAVERSE study. It was large scale, done on over 5,200 men with a cost of over $50 million. It's a legit study. Here's what it showed. Testosterone does not increase cardiovascular events or blood clotting. It does not increase prostate cancer risk, and it may reduce blood pressure. So the TRAVERSE study alone debunks so many myths thanks to the fact that it was a legit study, it was well-funded, and not Big Pharma funded. And in fact, because of the results of the TRAVERSE study in 2025, the FDA removed warning labels from testosterone medication that had previously been required due to the vilification of the myths. Well, let's cover a couple more myths real quick. A myth like TRT causes aggression and shortens lifespan. The reality is, Optimized testosterone improves one's mood, gives them a more positive mental outlook, and is used for longevity. And in fact, properly prescribed TRT has been shown to reduce all-cause mortality, making it something used for longevity. That's one of the reasons why I use it. The truth is, abuse can cause aggression, it can shorten lifespans, and it can cause heart attacks. Check this out. Pro bodybuilders, unfortunately, have been dropping like flies of heart attacks as young as in their 20s or 30s. But here's the reality. Some of them are using doses of testosterone up to 2,500 milligrams per week. And that's in addition to unnatural steroid compounds that they might be using as well. But a bodybuilder using 2,500 milligrams of testosterone per week, compare that to a TRT dosage, which is going to be 200 at the max. That is abuse. Personally, my dosage isn't even 200. I'm at a level of 70 per week. So when it comes to health, longevity, optimizing your life, the goal isn't to have testosterone too high. The goal isn't for it to be low. The goal isn't even for it to be normal, because oftentimes normal is based on a sick population. The goal is for your levels to be optimized. So the truth is, bodybuilders or other athletes abusing testosterone for performance enhancing reasons certainly can cause ill health effects. And unfortunately, some of the myths have had a carryover effect due to the abusive levels. That's why optimal levels based on your blood work should always be the aim. Here's why it all matters. Men out there, you're either going to be a victim or a victor. You're not going to be both at the same time. So instead of being a victim of an industry that just wants to milk you for disease money, I highly encourage you to be a victor who takes self-ownership of your health, how you feel, and how you age. I think it's essential that as men, we take ownership by making sure we're exercising, eating good, nutritious, clean food regularly, sleeping well, being well hydrated. The goal isn't to be perfect in those areas. The goal is to make improvements in those areas one step at a time. And I also think it's important for men that we take ownership over our hormones. And to do that, I encourage all men, get your blood work and T levels checked. And if they're not at optimal levels, avoid working with a prescription mill. These low quality companies that aren't thorough, they're not expert medically run, they just hand out prescriptions like candy because they just want to make as much money as they can. This is your health and maybe the most vital hormone in your body, so work with reputable TRT providers. Who I work with is Bolt Health. Why I choose Bolt? With them, you're only going to be working with an expert medical doctor. Not all clinics have you actually working with a doctor. And after doing thorough blood work, if you're a candidate for testosterone optimization, they prescribe a microdosing protocol. It's much more compatible with your body's natural daily pulse of testosterone. And I also choose Bolt because I love how they use MCT oil as the carrier oil for their testosterone medication. Most other companies use highly inflammatory seed oils like cottonseed oil. And if you want, you can check out Bolt Health. There's a link in the description below, or go to bolt.health/awaken. They'll also offer a special discount for my viewers. So in conclusion, if Big Pharma could patent masculinity, they'd be handing out testosterone like it's candy, but they can't. So instead, it appears to me that they demonize it in order to protect their $942 billion a year disease care piggy bank. I don't want to be a victim to that, and I don't want other men to either. I think the world needs more good men, especially today. That's why I care about helping men become better men. Thanks for watching.